On to the lesson then. We're gonna continue talking about the book of Revelation, and we're on chapter 9, and we've got some interesting things we're going to be covering pretty soon. But we're on chapter 9, verses 20 through 21 we're at, and the rest of the men which were not killed by these plagues, yet repented not of the works of their hands, that they should worship devils and idols and gold and silver and brass and stone and of wood, which can neither see nor hear nor walk. Neither repented they of their murders, nor of their sorceries, nor of their fornication, nor of their thefts. Now, when you read this, it sounds like a fundamentalist preacher rambling on, kind of, but it's much more deeper than that. Now, remember, we're talking about the an effect on not only the disciple, but the people that the disciple is interacting with. And when it talks about a third of the men killed, it's talking about a portion of that of the lower nature, which is killed or transformed and turned into the higher nature through the acts of the disciple that's treading the path to become like Christ. And this is what we're looking at as we go through this, is the path of the disciple as he follows the same path that the Christ followed to get to where he is. Now here it says that people in our age, in other words, or people that are dealing with the disciple, worship devils and idols. Now it kind of sounds like this applies to a large number of people. But when we look around, how many devil worshippers do we know? Do we know any devil worshippers? There's a small sect which call themselves Satanists, and they claim to worship the devil, but they actually think the devil is kind of a good guy. But so it has to be referring to more than just a small sect that worships, claims to be Satanists that are worshiping the devil. So it talks about the masses, in other words, worship devils. How is that possible?
Well, it has to do with our dark side, our lower nature. We all have that. And anytime you yield to temptation, that's worshiping a devil, your lower nature.
Yeah, devil comes from a word here that means basically a supernatural being. It can even be like a deity. It's something that's seen as having great power over you. And one of the things that now, what's interesting, you look at the life of Christ or his mission. He spent a lot of it casting out devils. It's now a lot of people think that is just maybe fairy tale type stuff, or
Little demons.
but what did he really cast out? Were people really was a large number of people that were sick? Were they actually bothered by some demon that was possessing them? What do you think? Was that what was going on? But when he cast them out, what did he do? Did he really cast out uh, demons that are frothing at the mouth and everything the way that people assume, or did he cast something else out that we can relate to today?
Well, guilt was one of the things he cast out.
Yeah,
Worry, doubt, fear.
disease. Yeah, now let's take a disease that's prevalent today, cancer. Now, cancer is an actual invasive life form, isn't it? So this could be called now another word for devil is adversary, and cancer is definitely an adversary that has invaded your body. So if we're able to cast out a cancer, wouldn't that be the same thing as Jesus casting out a devil in his time? So how do you cast out a cancer, for instance? Now, what Jesus did is he actually spoke to these. In other words, there's a life form. If you have a cancer, there's a life form in your body that is taken possession, a possession that you do not want to happen. So, how do you cast out something like that? Is it possible to actually speak to that intelligence and tell it to leave? You are not welcome here. Just go your way in peace. And that is perhaps one way that he did it. The other way is to make the abode that the cancer has lack nourishment. Cancer, for instance, nourishes on negative feelings, especially suppression. When a person, for instance, you'll find that a lot of the people that get cancer are really nice people. Have you ever seen a person that you think maybe really deserves something like cancer actually get it? Because just about everybody I've met that's ever had it is really a kind of a person that goes out of their way to please others, many of them. And what's interesting about this is that, and DK also supports this idea. He tells us that cancer is caused by suppression. So, when a person, for instance, gets his feelings hurt, the natural instinct is to lash back. But other people will think, well, I shouldn't express anything negative, and so I'll just let this slide. And so he really has hurt feelings, but he suppresses those hurt feelings and acts like nothing has happened. Well, something has. He's embraced a negative energy, and that negative energy can grow like a cancer. And so, what has to happen in this case is to release that negative energy so then the life that is the cancer doesn't have anything to feed on. So if the person then expresses his uh, um,
True feelings.
his feelings, so they come out, then the cancer doesn't have anywhere to live. In that case, I'll tell you a story about a group I had when I was with Artie. One of the members of the group got a new boyfriend, and he had severe cancer, was only given a couple months to live, and she wondered if there was anything we could do for him. So I quizzed him because cancer is usually some type of suppression. And I found out that his ex-wife completely controlled him. She even gave him just a really small allowance every week. And out of that small allowance, she was expecting him to buy her stuff. I mean, she really controlled this guy. And he was trying to break. He was going through a divorce, but she was still had a lot of control over him. And so I told him, well, before you can be healed, you gotta you got to break loose of that control of your uh, wife that you're trying to separate from. And so I told him, when you feel that you completely severed the link with her, and go to her and tell her what you feel about stuff. And I could give him several steps to do. And I said, when you've done this, then come back and we'll see what we can do. And so he worked on that for a couple months. And finally, he felt he was ready. He severed the link. He released the emotion. And we as a group give him a blessing. And I was a voice, and I felt one of the few times I felt inspired to command him to be healed. And we commanded him to be healed in the name of Christ. And all of a sudden he got up and he said, boy, I'm burning up. And he went into the bathroom and had to throw water on his face because his body was so hot. And that's one thing I found out was that the cancer is killed by excessive heat. If the body gets really hot, it can actually kill the cancer and let your other cells live. But anyway, he went and got an x-ray a few days later, and the cancer was in his lungs. And he said, the doctor said it looked like the cancer had exploded. There was like bits and pieces all around. And he was basically healed. And they left the group actually a short time afterwards. And I never saw him for about 20 years. I saw him about 20 years later in a restaurant and said hi to him. And I asked him, did your cancer ever come back? And he said, no, been good shape ever since. But so he was, and a lot of these healings that these preachers do, they get better it's kind of psychological. They get better for a short period of time. They kind of get a shot of energy and then they're back to the way they were. But this guy he was all right a long time afterwards. But that's an interesting example of the suppression. But I felt when he came to me that there was no way to heal him as long as he was harboring that suppressed energy that he had. So anyway,
Along those lines, to validate what you just said, my wife is going in for an operation on Thursday because she's got a little bit of cancer, cervical cancer, but I don't think there's going to be much of an issue about it. But she has a real challenge with suppression, and she's allowed herself to be walked on by like her niece, who's kind of a bully. And I tell Sue, I say, I wish your niece would try to do that to me, so you could see just exactly how you need to handle a situation like that. And she says, well, I really wish I could. I said, well, you're going to learn how to do that yet. And then as you stand up for yourself, you're going to feel a lot better and you're going to reveal your own truth and stand in your own power. So I've been coaching her along those lines, and I think it's really having a good effect on her. So I'm not really worried about any negative outcome from this operation because she is becoming a lot stronger. And furthermore, her niece moved away.
well, that's good.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, she married to the right guy because you don't suppress it all. So that's good.
No. Well, thank you, Joe.
Yeah. Okay, so um, we have germs that are supposedly cause all kinds of illness. So a, a healer can actually talk to these, focus on these little life forms that's in the body, and just tell them it's time for you to go.
How about blindness?
About what?
Blindness.
Blindness?
Yeah.
Well, that's a different one. That takes a significant act of faith. I wouldn't say that's normally wouldn't be caused by oftentimes by an accident or something. If it's caused by an accident, then it's you wouldn't over heal it by speaking to the life form. You would have to speak to the person's soul and to be able to perform a healing like that. And it would take uh, an advanced form of faith and confidence in the God within to be able to make that happen. You know,
Like Jesus did.
yeah. Now there's several things that do cause illness that can be like people's personal devils. One is fear, and fear is caused by usually some type of thought form. Now, remember, energy follows thought. So, if a person has various fears, that creates a funnel for thinking, and fear-based thinking is still an energy, but it's an energy that's out of tune, so to speak. It's like a piano can be, when it's in tune, it sounds very pleasant. If it's out of tune, it sounds very negative. And a fear is an out of tune thought. So for healing in this case, the fear needs to be neutralized. And the fear is neutralized by some type of an act of love can neutralize the fear, because love is like a note sounded in its purity. Fear is like a note that sounded off key. And so we have to put the person that has the problem back in tune. And this can happen with the healer. If the healer is in tune himself, he can use his own being in tune energy to help and assist the person that is trapped in a fear-based thought form. Okay, and then suppression and denial, we've already talked about that. And then the third is problem is a lot of people actually feel there's a benefit from an illness. And this is usually not conscious. So let's say a person gets a certain type of illness, and maybe, well, let's say a female is abused by her husband and she gets a bad cold or something, and notice her husband is a lot nicer to her when she has a cold. So this registers in her subconscious. So she thinks, boy, when I'm sick, my husband treats me a lot better and is a lot more loving. So that thought goes through her subconscious, and her subconscious decides, well, she wants that more than health. So her subconscious then produces an illness. And that illness, when the illness is produced, not only her husband, but maybe her mom and dad or friends are very sympathetic. They feel bad for her. They ask what they can do, maybe donate some money, and she gives her a lot of attention. So this causes her to hang on to that illness. Now, if you ask her, do you want to be healed? She'll say, oh, yeah, I would want that more than anything. Well, not so much. There's a part of her that wants the attention more than she wants relieved of the illness. And this is very common with many people that have various stages of illness. but it's very difficult for them to recognize that. And so this is another one of those devils that need to be cast out, and it's cast out by enlightenment. That
Well, this gal that was kind of bullying my wife, she's got arthritis. She had a boob job. She lost 25 pounds of her upper mass, and she's in a lot of pain. And she goes on and on and on about it. And the last time we were together, I said, do you realize that over 60% of all the conversation that everybody engages in is from you and all your aches, pains, and worries and woes and stresses? I said,
yeah,
you realize that over 60% of all the words spoken come from you about your pain and your illness. I said, you should give that some thought.
yeah. How
And boy,
many people?
it shut her right up. She never said another word.
Yeah, how many people have you met that you first thing they say when you get together is they say, "Oh man, I went to the doctor and they told me this and took me off this and put me on that,"
Yeah.
and grumbles about the insurance and uh, I've there's a handful of people I know that you get together with them. The first half hour of the conversation will be around something like that, and you can understand why they have a lot of physical problems because that actually gives them something to really talk about. They love talking about their problems. I mean, they just relish that. So if you want to be healthy, don't see yourself as benefiting from not being healthy. And there's a lot of people, I'd say probably about a third of the people with bad health uh, use it, use their bad health for a benefit, talking point, to get attention, something. And this is very difficult because if you explain to them the core of their problem, most of them will just get angry. So it's a difficult problem for people to solve because they don't really want to solve it. And but if they get it, then if their soul maybe will guide them to the point where they're in enough pain to where the pain far surpasses any benefit, and then they will sincerely want to solve it at that point. So that's it's too bad they have to go through that.
Well, when
It's
I meet someone and they say, "How are you?" and I say, "I'm as good as I think I am."
Yeah.
It's like the Cocklebur story. Well, why is that coyote over there howling? Well, because he's sitting on a cocklebur. Well, why don't he get off that cocklebur? Because he ain't done howling. He wants to keep howling, and
Yeah.
there you have it.
It reminds me of a friend of mine that was you remember Brent McCombs, Curtis?
Oh yeah, I remember Brent
One time
and Dwight.
one time we were sitting on a chair talking and he goes, "Oh, I said, "What's the matter?" He says, "I'm sitting on a tack." He wasn't sitting on a tack, but he was just pulling my leg. I thought that was
That
funny.
sounds like something he'd do.
Okay, anyway, another devil that needs to be cast out is unjust authority. In other words, the mark of the beast. Uh, People are very much controlled by outside authorities. The outside authority that takes the place of God. Because if you hear the voice of God, if you really heard the voice of God, you would think, boy, whatever that voice says, I can do. So if the voice says you're going to be healed, it would give you a lot of faith. Or if the voice said you got 3 months to live, boy, then you would believe that. And the outside authorities give are very problematic to a lot of people because outside authorities tell them what to think, tell them what's good for their health, what they need to do, and they will follow these things. And a lot of people that's my age are taking like a 8 to 12 different medicines.
Yeah.
They take one medicine and then it has negative effects, and then they take side effects, and then they got to take another medicine to counter that side effect, and then they get more side effects, and then they take another one. So it's amazing how, and these are all instigated by outside authorities, and these outside authorities will tell what what's good for them, what isn't good for them, and they're often wrong. They're often very wrong, and so the person needs to throw out that devil of unproven authorities that are taking the place of the inner guidance, and then listen to that inner guidance. And what I try to do is I try to listen to my body. If I change anything in my diet, I try to tune in and ask my body, well, what do you think of that? Was that okay? And my body will tell me, yeah, that was okay, or that was really good, or no, don't take that anymore. So listen to your body and be your own ultimate authority. And then this will be one of the keys of casting out those devils that produce ill health. Okay. Any more comment on that? Everybody got their devils cast out so they can stay healthy? Cindy got all her devils out. She was in a life and death situation a while back, and she's in pretty good shape. How did you manage that, Cindy?
Well, I think it was all due to the group for the most part,
Yeah.
helping me along there. I truly do.
Well, good.
Yep.
Yeah, and not only do we need to cast out the negative energy, but positive energy from loved ones is very healing. And this one thing that DK says, he says, there's all kinds of healing techniques that a master can use. But he says, it basically, if you don't know any other thing, he says, just send love to a person. He says, just sending love is a very powerful healing energy of itself. And that doesn't require any expertise or higher knowledge or anything. Everybody's capable of sending love to a loved one. And this is a very powerful healing energy just by itself. And then there's, of course, other techniques that can be used for esoteric healing.
Well, maybe we could all send my wife some loving energy so we can get her through this without any complications.
Yeah, maybe we ought to focus on our meditation, doing some focusing on some healing, and might be a good idea. We haven't done that for a while. Okay, it ends that they should not worship idols of gold and silver and brass and stone and wood, that can neither see nor hear nor walk. So humanity has a long way to go to not worship all the things that affect our lower nature and empower our lower nature, to take our mind off of these material things and put them on the spirit is essential for the disciple at this point and the people that he teaches at this point. Okay, so that's probably pretty much all that we got time for now. Is there any questions before we wrap up the lesson here? Comment? Everybody ready to cast out their personal devils so they can have good health.
Live to 120.
Yeah. Well, you won't live to be 120 unless you have a goal to live that long. So it's yeah,
Energy follows thought.
yeah, energy follows thought. Yeah, I've done a lot of studying about people that live to be over 100, and there's no one thing that's that they point their finger at. It's good attitude is one of the main things they have. Good diet, good attitude. Okay, very good. So let's